So beekeeping is a hobby that will pay back over time, but it can be an expensive hobby to get into. And if that's something that you're thinking about, what better way than to look at how to catch free bees? During the season, we like to catch swarms. There's two ways to do it. One is to get a phone call from somebody, they say, we've got a swarm of bees. Very often it's a swarm of wasps. So that involves a lot of work to go out and collect them. That's not what we're talking about today. Today is about building swarm traps, so hopefully in a few weeks' time, any time from the mid-April to mid-July, any passing swarm, we're going to catch them. Yeah, this is all equipment that we've had out over the winter. The smell that's given off from having bees in this before has just attracted some more bees that are flying past. It is just on the cusp of where the bees have started to fly. It's mid-afternoon. It's not really going to get any warmer than this, but these are just bees that are out scouting around. There is daffodil around, there's dandelion about. So as long as the temperature stays where it is, which is going to be for another hour, you will see bees, and they're attracted by the smell from this, the hives that we've used last year. It's really good to see them out and about. The sound of bees buzzing is fantastic, and it's something you definitely, as a beekeeper, you definitely miss in the winter. So although there's far louder noises when you get sort of 12, 14 hives booming on a beautiful summer's day, the scale of noise goes up many notches. But today it's just nice to see them out and about and hear the buzz again. This comb is largely empty, but it's an old comb, and we're going to use that as part of the attraction to the bees, because it smells of bee without there being any honey in here. Might be a little tiny bit, but they're just clearing out what's there. First of all, it's important to understand why bees swarm. Generally, it's because the colony has been so successful where it lived before that it's nature's way, or the bee's way, of dividing itself. So the queen, the existing queen, and the older flying workers will go off and find another site, leaving behind queen cells and the young brood and younger bees to look after it. The older bees will leave the hive en masse with the queen, and they'll go and alight on a branch somewhere, probably only 100, 200 metres away. And they can be there for a few hours, or they can be there for a couple of days. And that's the classic cluster of bees that you see. What's happening then is they're sending out scout bees from that cluster to go and find homes. And they will have a shopping list of things that are good for them, which is, it needs to be big enough for them. They've already outgrown where they used to live because the queen is so fertile and she's laid lots and lots of eggs. It's also in a good area, so they've been able to pack away lots of stores. So they certainly don't want to move into something that's going to cause them a problem in another month's time. So they want something that's quite large. The research has been done that it's about 30 litres in volume that they're looking for. They also want it to face the right way. It's a lot nicer to have an entrance in the sun rather than north facing. They need it to be somewhere where it's easy to navigate to because they've never lived there before, and it's a way of trying to tell the bees remaining where they need to go to find this place. So it needs to be defendable, it needs to be able to be navigated to easily enough, and it also needs to be a space big enough for them to grow into. What we're trying to do is we're trying to mimic that. So we want a location that's not far away from our apiary. It's about 100 metres from the nearest group of bees that we have. As I say, we could actually be collecting our own bees. We've been here 5 years, we have never ever collected our own bees yet. So these are all incremental new colonies to us, the way of catching free bees. So they probably come from another beekeeper locally who's not been as attentive maybe as he should have been. That's why we do weekly inspections between August and July so that we can spot the signs of swarming and take evasive action. We're going to be covering swarm techniques a little later on in the season, so you should stick around for those sort of things. They're really handy to know. Bearing in mind that 30 litres just happens to be the same internal volume as a British national hive. We can use the wooden hives, but they in themselves are heavy. They're also modular as well, so there's lots of bits that move around. So the floor's separate from the hive body, and then you've got a roof. And we're going to put this thing up about 3 metres off the ground, because that, again, is an optimal place that they're looking for. I think if you provide something that's quite tall and the 30 litres is vertical, then it gives them that feeling inside that they can move upwards, and there's plenty of space in basically what they think is the cavity within a tree. What we do is we use our nuke boxes, but configured in a certain way to try and replicate that 30 litres. So we use an extension. These boxes have been cleaned in a bleach solution, because with all swarms it's really important to have an eye towards the disease aspect. We've cleaned these out with a 5% sodium hypochlorite bleach solution. But also any bees that arrive, it's really important that they are quarantined, because we don't know where they've been. We don't know the disease they carry, if any. So it's important that anything that they bring with them in terms of food is used up to feed them, or is made inert by the generation of they make wax that goes into the honeycomb that they make. That process takes about 4 days, so we're not going to feed the bees. We want them to use the stores they brought with them from the honey stomach. To get that 30 litres, what I do is I have an extension box on there. So we've now got a bigger box, but it's a lot more manageable to carry, to put up at the 3 metre height that we're going to use. We want to attract the bees into the hive, so this is an old comb. It's a sort of comb that's had bees on, it's had brood in for many, many times, and that's why it goes black. But it must be where there's no stores inside, because we don't want to attract bees in here that are essentially robbing, because robbing is a trait that we don't want them to have. If they think that by going in other hives and checking them out there's a free meal, that's definitely something we don't want to have, particularly if you've got small colonies anywhere. And I put that right at the very top and right against the wall. Let's put that to one side. With your nuke boxes, there's a couple of things that we want to, again, give the bees the impression that this space that they're going for, that they're checking out, is defendable. They have a mesh underneath, so all we do is cut a piece of Corex, and that will fit on there. We'll screw it in place, and it just covers the mesh. So they know then, from a defending point of view, that's going to be so much easier. We're going to make that entrance as small as possible, obviously to allow a bee to go into that. But we use a pin, so it's not going to close up. But this entrance as well is so small, they'll be thinking that's really handy to defend. Put our extender on with our smelly old comb in there, and then solid roof as well. So I'm just going to put a small ratchet strap to keep everything together. It's also handy because this empty weighs, I don't know, 5 kilograms, towards 10 kilograms. But there is a weight to bees, particularly with the honey stomachs full. So yeah, we've just tightened this strap up, and it will give us a handy handle for when we're lifting it down as well. Bearing in mind that the ideal place for this hive now to catch swarms is somewhere that's about 3 metres off the ground. It's about 30 litres, which we've just made there. It's facing southwest, so it gets away from the hottest part of the day, but it's still got a nice bit of sunshine on in the end of the day and into the evening to attract bees and the smell, and it's, you know, just a better place to be than some dark corner. But we also want it where the bees that have found it they're able to go back to this cluster that's hanging in a tree and then tell their friends, we found this place and it's really good. And so it needs to be easy to navigate to. So on walls, fence lines, field boundaries, and we actually put ours on the corner of the shed. Now this is about 3 metres up, and we catch about 3 or 4 swarms every season just at this one location. And we do that in every one of our apiaries. So as you can imagine, over the time, it's quite a few colonies of free bees. So this is a time lapse that I took exactly the same spot. This is one from last year. You've got 1 or 2 bees just checking it out, flying round, getting a bit more excited as they go, and they go off and they tell their friends. And we can see there are more and more bees, and they're now really excited. And then it goes quiet and they disappear because they've gone back to tell all the bees to come back. So that's the bees arriving with the queen. That's half the colony, the old colony. They've arrived with a full honey stomach. They will be creating wax comb and settling in. We want to make this the place that is so attractive to them. It smells of bees, so it's got that seal of approval. There's no food in there, but there's some old comb in there, so somewhere for the queen to start laying immediately. So we're going to put this up on the platform now. It's so much easier to mess about with this at this height than a full-sized wooden hive with a modular components and things slipping around. And then we just put a brick on the top there, push it against the side. So the next time we go up to that nucleus, it should be full of bees. So we catch probably 2 to 3 swarms every single season at that one location. It's a really good spot. And what's better than free bees?
Free honey?
Free honey, yeah. There's no such thing as free honey.